Hey guys, and welcome back to the ASX Investor channel. Today we'll be talking about all things semiconductors. I'm sure by now you might have seen the news surrounding Weebit Nano. ASX WBT has entered into a trading suspension with the potential of their first commercial agreement coming to markets. Of course, there's been a lot of speculation and a lot of opportunities to connect some of the dots, and at the moment the name that keeps popping up is Skywater Technologies. You might be wondering, who is Skywater? What does Skywater have to do with Weebit Nano, and what does it mean for the WBT story moving forward? In today's video, we're going to unpack who Skywater Technologies is. We'll talk about the SKYT story, and then we'll explore why these companies have been mentioned together and how exciting it could be if there is an agreement that does come to market. If you do enjoy the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Feel free to share it out. We make daily videos on the channel as well. So if you haven't yet and you're new here, welcome. Make sure you've subscribed and turn your bell notifications on. You won't miss any of our daily episodes. And so before discussing Skywater Technologies, their offering and the space that they play in the semiconductor supply chain, I thought it makes sense for us to take a step back and have a think about the semiconductor industry itself. As we know, the semiconductor industry is a complex and intricately designed system. It's not like other simple manufacturing processes. There's many moving parts, as you can see here from this diagram, and there are a few different players that play within it as well. It's worth noting that it's not often an integrated supply chain from end to end. There's many different players that play with their different roles within the supply chain, and often the customers have specifications. These will be called the fabless design companies. So they're the ones who own the IP for the actual semiconductor designs. They help to do a lot of the focus on the research and the development side. They come up with the IP, and they then release their engineering layouts and designs to the foundries. So the foundries or fabrication facilities are those who actually do the manufacturing and the actual production of these semiconductor chips. They do some initial testing on it, they package them together, and then they provide them back to the fabless design companies who are then able to sell and market those onto the markets or put them into their products. So it's worth noting the different components of this supply chain. Skywater itself is actually the only US based and owned pure play foundry. This is interesting because at the moment, to understand the layout of the land, the majority of the supply chain and the foundries are actually found in the Asian region. Of course, we know there's been a significant focus on localization of supply chains recently, not just in the semiconductor industry, but for industries around the world. And this is why Skywater is positioned with a really interesting take on the semiconductor space. We'd love to know your thoughts as well. So drop in a comment below what you think about Weebit Nano, the potential announcement upcoming, and what you think about Skywater Technologies and how they could look to grow into the semiconductor space as the only US-based player moving forward. And so building on that, it makes sense for us to take stock of the current US context. Of course, as we've stated previously, at the moment, a lot of the production and the foundries are located within the Asian region. There's been a significant focus about onshoring of manufacturing and production capabilities, both in America as well as in other nations around the world, helping to capture a lot more of the value locally, which of course is going to be better for the economy, but it also builds resilience into the supply chains as well and makes them less prone to shocks. We've all seen the significant supply chain disruptions that have happened over the past year with the virus, the lockdowns, and everything else that's occurred. So there is this focus about bringing production and supply onshore. We know that Joe Biden has really focused on developing out this infrastructure locally, focusing on employment and providing jobs to many employees within America. And this is where Skywater are hoping to play into. We can also see this image here on the left of Joe Biden holding up a wafer. Of course, he's stated that this is infrastructure. The Biden administration, in response to the semiconductor shortage and also just about the increasing demand with the digital adoption picking up pace, have called for $50 billion investment into the chip industry. As we mentioned, Skywater is the only US-based and owned pure play foundry at the moment. So of course, there's going to be a lot of investment and a lot of opportunities for companies that are able to grow into this space to be big beneficiaries moving forward. And so then that leads us to Skywater Technologies. NASDAQ SKYT is actually a relatively newish company in the current form that they are. They were spun out and founded in 2017 and actually only IPO'd onto the NASDAQ in 2021. Of course, you can see that they're the only US-owned and US-based pure-play semiconductor foundry, so they have the opportunity to feed into their supply chains. They're also an accredited and approved Department of Defense supplier, and of course, government contracts can be sticky, long-term, and semiconductors are a material of strategic importance as well, which means that they can be beneficiaries of these tailwinds. What's interesting about Skywater, however, is that they're looking to define a new category. As you can see on the left, we know that with conventional foundries, a lot of them are trying to focus on churning out high volumes for their customers. There's minimal customization with the runs because of course you're just focusing on churning out as much volume as you can over time. Then there are those specialist foundries that have moderate range of customizations, more specialist technologies as well, and lower volumes as you have a bit more customization. But then Skywater themselves are trying to become this really holistic technology foundry. So they're pioneering technology as a service, and they want to provide support on the back end with advanced technology services, and then of course the conventional wafer and manufacturing services as well from the foundry. You can see the spot that they're trying to fill on the right here with this visual that they provided. Of course, you've got the conventional foundries, which are churning out higher volume. Then you've got those much more specialized development labs focused on the R&D side. And Skywater are hoping to play in the middle with the ability to transition and uplift towards volume manufacturing as they scale. NASDAQ SKYT are still in the relative early stages compared to many of the other foundries as well around the world, so they do have a long growth runway ahead of them if they are successful. And so just to help to conceptualize the Skywater offering, we can see here, this is what they mean with technology as a service. On the back end, of course, with the advanced technology services, they're going to help their customers go all the way from concept and feasibility to help have technology demonstrations and really refine the offerings and ensure that they can provide the best technology and solutions for their customers to develop the products that they need. Then moving into process development, and then you get into the more conventional foundry services with wafer development, product design, product qualification, and ultimately volume manufacturing. This is really interesting because it's much more focused on capturing a lot more of the value chain. Of course, we know that as you capture more of the value chain, it improves your margins as well. So they want to help provide with efficient R&D, accelerated time to market, and move towards volume manufacturing. It's an interesting offering, of course, as mentioned, as the only US-based owned pure play foundry, it's a fascinating opportunity. If they can feed into this well, the opportunity that they have ahead of them, particularly with the investment, with the tailwinds, with the digital adoption picking up pace, and with a focus on these localization of supply chains, makes the NASDAQ SKYT offering pretty interesting to consider. And then that leads us onto Weebit Nano. Of course, we're familiar with the ASX WBT story by now. They're a developer of ReRam non-volatile memory technologies, which is faster and more energy efficient when compared to the existing incumbent flash memory technologies. Of course, up to now, they've been in the research and development stage. They've been continuing to progress this, and they've just been on the verge and awaiting their first commercial agreement. What's interesting about Weebit is they've had quite a defined roadmap as well. Initially, they want to target the embedded memory market, where they'll be embedding their ReRam technologies with customers or with fabs. Of course, here they're able to get paid on two different occasions. Firstly, with the initial license fees, and then to claim royalties for products that are produced moving forward. But they do have a roadmap as well, and aspirational vision to eventually provide their ReRam in the discrete memory market with the standalone chips as well. So they've got a long growth runway ahead of them. It's really, really fascinating. And what's interesting about Weebit Nano as well is they have the ability to get commercial agreements really on two different sides. One, they can provide their technology, their ReRam technology, to foundries or fabrication facilities like Skywater, who are then able to offer this ReRam technology as a better solution versus the current memory solutions that they have. And this will help a company like Skywater stand out when offering their solution of technology as a service to new prospective customers. But Weebit can also then seek individual customer agreements with customers who may be looking for a better step up in terms of the products that they're developing, who'd like to embed their ReRam memory into their new products, which will enable them to process faster, to be more energy efficient, to provide ultimately a better product for their end customers. The Skywater initial agreement, of course, we don't have any details on it yet, and we'll be waiting to see what comes through in the coming days, does have the ability to deliver commercial agreements to them on both sides of the coin. We'll have to wait to see what does come to market, but it is a really fascinating one. We know that the Weebit leadership team has got a breadth of experience across the semiconductor and advanced technology spaces. They've previously outlined that for their first commercial agreement, they were looking for a company in the tier 2 space, not a tier 1 company, but a company that potentially was hoping to look for that leg up or a competitive advantage that could entice prospective customers to come to their offering. It seems like Skywater really does fit that bill. And of course, with Weebit's ReRam memory technology, it does have a significant advantage versus the existing tech. So it would be fascinating to see the adoption. We know that in this advanced technology space, the first commercial agreement is often the hardest because you're seeking an initial adopter, but once it's been proven and then validated to work and have a use case, often further commercial agreements will then flow out of that one. As other companies want to get on board with this new technology, they don't want to miss out, they don't want to concede a competitive advantage to their competitors in the space. And so then that leads us to the current day, where ASX WBT are still in a trading suspension. They've requested that the company remains in suspension until Thursday the 9th of September, or until the release of an ASX announcement regarding the above matter. Of course, we know that the initial agreement potentially ceased being confidential with an unfortunate release. And so we'll be waiting to see if further information comes out either up onto Thursday or even potentially before it. For now, it's really a wait and see. There's a lot of speculation, there's a lot of dot joining, but most of all, there's a lot of excitement. For those longer term ASX WBT holders, it's been a long journey. Of course, the research and development phase is a long process. It's not quick, but once you have that technology developed, we've heard about the Weebit team talk about really starting to roll it out, driving customer adoption, and eventually moving from quite a high touch model in the initial stages, as you're helping integrate and embed the technology, to a lower touch model as well. The pathway is fascinating, it's compelling, it's exciting. We're waiting to see what flows out of it. If you did enjoy the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Feel free to share it out as well. We make daily videos, so if you haven't yet, make sure you've subscribed and turn your bell notifications on. We've interviewed a range of different ASX CEOs on the channel as well, so we'll leave links to those up above that you can check out after this one. We'd love to know your thoughts on it all. It's a fascinating time, so drop in a comment below and let us know what you think about the potential agreement as well as the opportunity that both Skywater and Weebit Nano has. And a reminder that everything we've discussed is still in the speculation stage. We'll have to wait to see the announcements that do eventually come to markets. I'm not a financial advisor and nothing we discuss on the channel is financial advice. All of these are just general discussions to be that starting spot for you to do your own research from. Thank you so much for joining us. All eyes will be on the Weebit Nano story on Thursday the 9th of September. For now, stay well and happy investing.